Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Tawnya Stone, Vice President of Strategic Technology at GreatAmerican Financial Services. Thanks for joining me, Tawnya.
Thanks for having me.
No, I appreciate your time this morning. We had some technical difficulties, so we're going to just leave this screen blank so it just doesn't show up just obnoxiously. But we got
Monday
some
morning.
Christmas. We got some elves going on here. We got a little Ferris wheel over there. So, and it's a Monday. So, at least the computer's working, I guess.
Don't jinx us.
Tawnya, for those people who might not be familiar with yourself, do you mind just kind of introducing, yourself and your career to date in equipment finance?
Absolutely. So I started at GreatAmerican 11 years ago, and I actually started in our IT group as sort of a project manager in the billing and invoicing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was literally the perfect place to start because everything ends up on an invoice for a finance company. So if you can understand that aspect and everything it takes to get things on an invoice, you get a really wide view of our organization. I did that for a couple of years, and then there was an opportunity to be a little bit more customer facing. And I had always been customer facing prior to this job. And I found that I really, really enjoyed it. So I sort of morphed into more of a kind of half business, half technology role. And then that has evolved then to having individuals that are focused on our specific business units within my group. So it started fairly basic, getting a good base of knowledge, and then sort of evolving it to be more of that customer facing technology focus that I have now.
Perfect. I don't know if you knew this or not, but GreatAmerican was actually, I think, the third customer that I ever assigned in equipment finance. And I want to say that was 2006 when I was with OSG. So your first role, I don't know if you guys were still using OSG when you started. I think so.
Yep.
I went to LTI in 2011.
And that's when I came, was 2011. So I don't think I even knew that you were, I think I knew because someone had told me, hey, this is the same Jesse that, and I'm like, oh.
Okay. Yeah, and especially the way that you guys, I know I'm moving a little bit ahead here, but the way that you guys do some of your usage base, getting that to get on an invoice when it's not in the data file coming from the normal one.
No, there's some cool stuff. And, it's just going to be interesting because I wish that when new people start, you could give them that base of knowledge, because just the ability to understand the challenges that our customers have, the challenges we have, it all kind of lands on how do you bill somebody. So.
Well, and not only that, though, you got to educate the salespeople, because they look at you like, what do you mean you can't do that? What do you mean you can't do that? What do you mean you can't do that? I mean, I may be one of them, but whatever. That's why we have great people like you behind the scenes that try to make everything happen.
That's the goal anyways.
So, Tawnya, if you don't mind, just spend a couple minutes on GreatAmerican. Just how long you guys been in business, markets served, et cetera.
Sure. GreatAmerican has been around for almost 30 years, which is sort of an interesting, because it's not the oldest, and it's not the newest. So we kind of sit there in the middle. So I think some of the challenges that we face are kind of on the lines of, we're big enough, not too big, but not too small. So it's kind of like that Goldilocks, we're just right. We have over 600 employees, primarily based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. However, we've got some other offices like in Georgia, Minnesota, and then some remote workers. So as far as the business units that we serve, we have three main business units that are non-servicing. So that would be our office equipment group, which is the bulk of our business. We also have what we call connected technologies, which is sort of the traditional IT, data, voice, that sort of customer base. And then we have our specialty markets group, and then that breaks down into our automotive, construction, healthcare, and franchise. On the servicing side, we have our portfolio services group, and they are servicing contracts on behalf of another financing source. And then we also have Collaborants, which is our master managed service provider. So we have basically built this knock and this setup that if someone wanted to offer managed services to their customer, we're actually doing all of the servicing. They're just sort of the feet on the street. So we have a really broad base of customers, and the way that we're organized is really around the markets that we serve. And so our goal is to really understand what are the needs of our customers and then be able to offer solutions that meet those needs.
Well, and then you have your team behind you that has to come up with those solutions that meet
Yeah,
those needs and continue to evolve on a regular basis, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And no need is exactly the same. And, everybody understands that you can't build custom things. So how do you utilize technology in a way to make it more configurable instead of just custom for everybody?
Nail on the head there, right? I mean, because I sold software for I don't know, 12 years, and anything can be done with time and money, but at some point you have to ask the question, why
Or should it?
should it be? That's the way it's, but that's the way it's always been. Uh,
Yes. No, I definitely think that, we have a lot of tenure on our organization. I think from a leadership level, the average is like 13 years.
wow.
Not our senior leaders is actually much higher, but if you take sort of that, basic management group, we're at about 13 years. So it's nice because you've got some people with some newer tenure that are bringing in fresh ideas, experience from other industries, but we also have sort of that balance of people who've been in an industry a long time and they understand what the needs of the customers are. And one
Yeah,
of the things that's sort of interesting is it's sort of that push pull of, do you pull your customers, further than they want to be pulled, or are you, being pushed by your customers and balancing that out? Because, we're serving thousands of customers and equipment sellers, and the needs are definitely not ubiquitous across them. Like,
no,
we
no.
still get faxes, put it that way. We don't love them, but we still get them.
You got the folder, the random folder that has to still be carried around from department to department. You're like,
We are
why?
actually paperless.
Why?
So
Oh,
we
perfect.
we don't do that anymore. We did actually used to be very paper based, but just from an efficiency standpoint, and some
Yeah,
of the experiences that we've had with like the flood of 2008, the derecho of 2020, which no one had heard of a derecho before it happened to us. Um, Basically, it's an inland hurricane. Like we're in Iowa, we live in the middle, right? So there shouldn't be hurricanes. But it was mile an hour wind of like 120, 140 mile an hour. So a lot of devastation. And if we weren't paperless, I think we would have had a lot bigger issue.
wow, wow. I don't know. I hear derecho and my simple head goes to like dodgeball, but that was the ocho. So it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, people couldn't even figure out how to say it. Is it Direco? Is it derecho? I mean, like we got a lot smarter that August.
It's fantastic. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
right in the
mean,
middle of
so
COVID. The timing couldn't have been much worse.
what? Um, yeah, there's a few things I wanted to touch on in regards to just like you mentioned, the tenure you have. I would say the culture of your organization. It's to me, it's it's one of the, if not the top based organizations from a culture perspective. I mean, when you walk in your office, you have it. I think it's on the walls, and it's consistent. If you make a phone call, I believe the phone doesn't ring more than once.
Well, it's a two ring, but hopefully it's in one. Two
Okay,
is if
okay, yeah.
we're slacking.
If the phone rings more than once, then it's like, what's going on
It's a
here?
swarm.
Is
Right.
it- So how do you, there's a couple of things on the culture, so over the course of the pandemic, like the new hires and everyone that's not in the office, and I guess just in general, like how do you build that culture and maintain that culture, Tanya, over a 30-year organization?
The one word that I would say is intentional. And it's funny because I think if you don't think about it, but it's still very strong, somebody's thinking about it. It just may not be like your specific role. And so I think that when I look at all of the little things, it is being very intentionally done. And we are just sort of the beneficiaries of it. And it's funny because we'll have somebody that might leave Great America. Let's say this was their first job out of college. And then, you get that 2, 3 year itch. You're like, oh, I want to try something new. They leave. The number of people that come back, they're like, whoa, we didn't know until we
Yeah.
didn't have it. And so I think from our hiring practices, we're very, very focused on hiring the right person. Not to say that you can't have skills that need to line up with it, but a lot of skills can be taught. And so if we're getting the right person in the door, that is so much more important because, you know, you bring the wrong person in and that can really negatively impact your culture in a way that you can't really easily fix. So no matter how good you are at your job, you better be a great American because it's you're probably going to self-select out or it's just not going to work long term.
No, that's interesting. And obvious, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people who are going to be watching this understand your hiring practices, but if it's a personality profile, then in person, how many interviews does someone go through?
I wouldn't say it's like a set number. It's more
Okay.
focused on getting the people that are going to be interacting with you to meet you. And I would say it's sort of a group project is our hiring process, which, I can see on the candidate side how that can be, it's not a fast project.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it is so important that we get the right people in the door, that you're going to have leaders meet with you, peers meet with you. Here's what the job would entail. You're almost job shadowing a little bit. We just want to make sure that, it takes a lot to onboard. We focus a lot once someone gets in the door on making sure they've got that really strong base of knowledge. So it's an investment in time on our part.
Okay.
And so we really want to make sure that we've got that right person. So if anyone is applying at Great America, it requires a little bit of patience, but it really is for the better outcome. At one point, we were only hiring about 2% of the people that had applied. So
Wow.
it's pretty selective. But good things happen to those who wait. So just have some patience. The process really does work. I feel like kind of the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, just trust the process. Although
Look, I
never
think
they never
like
make
I
it.
didn't
So
get
maybe that's not a good analogy.
every time, like, when I probe people on the interview process and everything else, it's like, yeah, I'd probably walk away. I wouldn't be offered a rose. Be like, no, no, no. No, but that's interesting though, because I want to say traditionally it was about someone's education, right? Or what do you mean they haven't done credit before? Or what do you mean they haven't done docs? And like you said, a lot of that stuff, I mean, all that stuff can be like taught to somebody. But if you don't have the right personality fit behind it, what are we
Yep.
doing?
And we're just a really customer focused organization. So we're just looking for people that are
Yeah.
just as passionate about serving our customers.
Perfect. And then I know you talked about we talked about the derecho and then 2008. So the first guy that was in charge of my project when I was at OSG was Jim Burns. He did a presentation at an OSG user group when I was with them in regards to that flood of 2008. And I believe in your lobby, do you still have where the flood went up to? Is that
Yep.
marker still there?
Yep. No, it was crazy how just so quickly the way we worked just had to shift.
Yeah.
And so now I would say we have a team of people that are focused on our disaster recovery, a very good team. And we have an offsite location that we we actually have, we call them Better Together days.
Okay.
So we'll have offsite teams go there and meet people, especially when we're at a 50% hybrid environment right now.
Okay.
Just really focus time on spending together as a team. We're a team based rather than a function based organization. And
Okay.
so being around your team and overhearing the conversations and being able to kind of say, hey, what do you think of this, is just so important to our culture. And so we've tried to find a way to still be flexible with that hybrid environment, but yet not lose those elements that, being together actually benefits.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, and I don't know. I'd be naive to say that disaster recovery really wasn't thought about and always. But back in 2008, when I want to say you guys shifted almost immediately and had a record month,
Yeah.
and that was
I don't
almost
remember the
unheard
numbers,
of.
but yes, I was going to say, I don't, there were several of our customers that didn't even realize we were having an issue, which is the highest compliment because they were still being serviced. I remember one customer said, and I found this quote just recently, actually, Great America during a flood is servicing us better than normal companies on a Tuesday. And so, I mean, that's just really a really high compliment from our customers that
Yeah,
um, the work of that group is amazing.
no, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Because I guess where I was kind of going with that was, the organization's almost 30 years old, right? Like being that forward thinking, even back in 2008 was incredible. And now, you're in charge of the strategic technology. So how does a 30-year-old organization kind of look at, okay, we've done this well, we've done this well, we could try to improve this. How do you guys look at like technology products or projects, Tanya?
I think it's important to always be evolving. And so I think it starts with the right mindset. If you stick with that, well, it's working today mindset, that's you're going to be outdated soon. And so having kind of that constant, okay, what are the needs of our customers? Are we still meeting them? Doing the assessments and understanding kind of where are the gaps? Where can we grow? What can we proactively offer them? I think a lot of times we try to offer things that our customers didn't even necessarily ask for, but it
Right.
fills a need. So, I mean, you just think about like if you're running a marathon and there's somebody holding water out as you run by, the runner didn't ask for the water, but they needed the water. And so it's like,
Sure.
what can you proactively do to, make your customers over and abundantly excited to work with you? So we're just constantly trying to evolve what our technology stack is, how we serve our customers, the ways in which we serve them. So it's just a constant evolution.
Well, and that's perfect. And not only are you polling your customers, but you're actually coming up with action items in regards to what they're saying. It's amazing the amount of people that just check boxes when it comes to client relations and all these things, but they don't actually initiate any noticeable change.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, it's done by a team of people who are super passionate about, providing and serving them the best way possible. So I think the box checkers, they're just doing their job. I think the people who are passionate are constantly like trying to, how do we do more? What's the next one? Like, so just trying to kind of dig deeper and wider.
And from I guess a technology perspective, you have all these things that are being thrown at you on what needs, because you always blame the technology stack, right? Because you got to blame somebody. Well, it's the system can't do that, or the process and everything else. So how do you, any like way that you prioritize?
I,
um
I think it all goes back to what business problem or need is it addressing? There's so much cool technology out there, and it's really easy to be distracted by the shiny thing of, oh, wow, I can do this, I can do this. Okay, what problem are we solving? Is that a real
yeah,
problem? Is that
yeah.
something that needs to be addressed? And so I think just constantly focusing on the business issue at hand, technology should be an enabler, not a driver. One of the things is we don't want to change our customers' process. We want to be able to enable it. And that's sort of interesting because we're not pushing people in a direction. We're saying, tell me what you need and how you work, and then we can just slide things in as it's appropriate.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because there's always that like typically it's like what 80/20 rule or something like that. It seems to me like in selling software for those years and then being on the servicing side, you get this like 5% of someone's business that takes this, like it's like, what are we doing here? Like, how much time and money it's going to cause to severely enhance, not going to say
Right.
customize that 5%. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we focusing on that?
Well, and I think a lot of time is just trying to understand why are they doing it that way? Because maybe no one's even questioned them on that. I mean, if that way is really goofy, figure out there might be specific customer that's driving them to need that, well, maybe that customer isn't even a customer anymore, or maybe that customer's business has evolved. So I think it's the constant questioning, constant curiosity, and then a passion that kind of wraps it all up.
Perfect. No, that constant curiosity. I like that one there. So do you believe in the fail fast or fail
Um,
early or any of that?
I prefer not to fail, but
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
mean, you're gonna fail. I guess it's better to do it faster than slower. Um, there's always sort of that mixture of I'm not a very patient person myself. And so it's nice to be able to see something, does it work, test it, if not, move on. So I totally can appreciate that. But I do think that good decision making can help you avoid some failures because
Sure.
sometimes just action for the sake of action is not the best course. So ensuring that what you're working on is actually serving a need, is going to be utilized, and then it's a question of how are you going to implement it. There's always pivots that need to be made, but
Sure.
I mean, I guess if you're going to fail, fail fast, but try not to fail.
Yeah, that's one of those buzzwords that always bothers me. It's like, no, I'm not going to put fail on anything. Like, strategic, tactical
Right.
thoughts.
Well,
But
there's
then
always
again, that
something to be learned. I mean, that's the other thing is it's like
yeah,
if something doesn't work, it's not a failure if you learned something. You may pivot and you may do something different, but as long as there was some positive outcome from it, I don't really consider that a failure. I do
sure.
think it's up to the organization to create the culture of being willing to try things and being
Yeah.
able to take some risks. Finance companies traditionally are not awesome at taking risks. Just because that's not in our nature. So I think just making sure that you're making smart risks and smart bets.
Well, and if you surround yourself with good quality people, just like you're talking about, because I think that was one of the more harder things for me when it comes to some of these things is just because I don't think it's going to work doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work. It just might not be the way that my mind
Mhm.
process these things. But that's why you surround yourself with smarter people than you.
Absolutely.
And then you have people like me that always just throw a random crap out there, and you're like, go sit in the corner, be quiet.
No,
Just
that honestly, so there are some individuals that I know are going to be questioning everything. And the one piece of advice I would give to people is bring them into the conversation early because they are the ones that are thinking in a way different than you. Because if you're presenting on something and there's 100 questions from somebody, they clearly don't think the same as you. So bounce things off them, early and often because you can more fully vet kind of the solution that you're trying to create. I know the tendency is to wait. Okay, they're going to question a lot. I'm going to wait till the end. Well, it's sometimes not too late, but it's harder to
yeah.
adjust things and make shifts later. So bring them in early and make sure that kind of from every perspective it makes sense before you kind of pull the trigger on it.
Well, and you can probably anticipate their objections or the questions they're going to have.
Yep.
I mean, and then you can politely build a presentation around
Absolutely.
and self answer them.
Yeah. Oh,
Or you could
agreed.
just sit there and be ready where it's like a chess game where they're
Yeah.
like, because if you answer everything, then they're going to get pissed and just be like, well, what about you took away everything I wanted to ask?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often in our world. They still find questions.
Of course. Well, that's awesome there. I'm gonna pivot a little bit if you don't mind. So, you know, you've been in equipment finance. Were you in equipment finance before you came to
Nope.
Great America? Okay. So what are your thoughts on, the equipment finance industry being in here for a little over a decade?
I personally absolutely love it. I think it is a super tight knit group. One of the things that I think I like the most is how collaborative it is, and even across competitors. I've had the opportunity to work on some committees through like ELFA
Yeah.
that are with our competitors, but you're able to really talk about, I mean, not proprietary things, but
Yeah.
the challenges you're having are very similar to the ones your neighbor's having. And so, maybe part of it's a therapy session. I don't know, but knowing you're not alone and knowing that you're
Yeah.
kind of trying to face some of these things. Um, I've never seen an industry quite as collaborative. I do think that, it is interesting. So I lead the ELFA Technology and Operations Award. And
Huh.
so I have the privilege of being able to read these submissions. It is crazy. The business problems that are being solved are the same ones. I mean, now how they might be solving them are different. But everyone is having those same challenges. And so it's been really sort of refreshing and therapeutic to know that we're in this together. We're trying to evolve the industry together. It's been a great experience for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's what is the word? Friend petition? Is that
Yeah,
front petition? I don't know, whatever.
I've never heard that before, but I like it.
But it's almost the, and I've been a service provider
Mhm.
my entire, but almost 18 years now. Oh yeah, 18 years. I'm old. Getting
Oh,
old.
please, you're probably younger than
Older.
me, so let's not talk age.
Just, I mean, the good thing is though, is my hair matches the fireplace stone. So I got that going for me. But even on the service providers, you have service providers that are direct competition. Now on the software side, probably not so much. I don't think the lease accounting software companies are getting together and sharing best practices in a roundtable discussion. But like, the attorneys do it.
Yeah.
Um, service providers do it. A majority of service providers do it because there's, at the end of the day, there's enough business to go around. And it's everyone's a niche industry. People do things. So even some of your competitors probably send you business because you do it better.
I was going to say it's really defining what your value proposition is and living true to that. Because the ability that you have, whatever that is in your product, your service, your software, is
Yep.
going to be unique. And so just finding what's that uniqueness that makes people want to work with you and focusing on it.
Huh, makes complete sense. And then as far as I mean, I know the last couple of years you've been doing this big DEI shift. What are your thoughts on kind of women in this industry taking more of a leadership role or this advancing in organizations, Tanya?
I think it's phenomenal. And I think uh, Great America has been a very good example in the sense that one of our biggest business units, our office equipment group, it is predominantly led by women. Our general manager is a woman. A lot of her leadership team is, and it's just been really, I don't feel that barrier at Great America
Okay.
that I think other people might feel. Um, Without knowing people's specific situation, my only guidance would be to raise your hand. People can't provide opportunities if they don't know you want them or they don't know you're looking for them. And I can tell you when I shifted from my first role at Great America into my next role, it was because I said, I would like to do this. In fact, my current boss had said, I remember we were in a meeting room on the 8th floor, and he was like, do you know who would be a good fit for this? I'm like, and he's like, oh, okay. And that was when I was probably more shy. So, I mean, and they probably want to put me back a little bit. But no, I just think speaking up, being your own advocate, you can't sit back and wait for things to happen to you, make things happen for you. So I love to see more women. I participated in the women's forum this year for the first year. That was awesome. I would highly encourage everybody, male or female, to come. It was great speakers, great camaraderie, great networking. I mean, it was just good discussion topics. Just keep pushing it. It's amazing to see. I think it is maybe evolving a little slower than some people would like, but isn't that the case with everything?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is. I've just noticed, I mean, like I said, I think my first conference was in 2005. And maybe there'd be a handful of ladies at these events, and now it's definitely gaining more, which is fantastic. You mentioned a word earlier, intentional. I
Yep.
think that's what this kind of comes down to as well,
Yeah.
is people need to
Agree.
be intentional. I know the stats, where is it like 90% of men will just raise their hand, and even if they don't know the answer, just blurt it out. And I think it's less than, maybe, was it like 30% for women to do that, because they don't have that level of confidence.
Mhm.
Be confident, throw it out there, raise your hand, and
Raise
it's
your
a good
hand.
industry.
Yep.
So, but
I think
oh,
just like
perfect.
everything else, you get out of it what you put into it. And so I think that's true for your job. It's true for the industry. It's true with your friendships. And so put into it if you want something out of it. I mean, if you just want
Yeah.
to check the box, then you don't have to, I guess, but then don't complain. But
We're not checking boxes.
no, put yourself out there and put yourself fully into it. And it's amazing what the industry will allow you to reap.
Nope, nope, same page. Same page there. So traditionally, when I have these interviews, I have EFC's logo on the TV, but lack of Arizona sun. I mean, come on, like,
Which
it's always
did not
sunny here, right?
happen.
Doesn't make any sense, and apparently, my lighting doesn't allow for whatever. Was gone for 18 days, and so I'm trying to dig out of this here. But you were on a panel at our Minnesota event this year for Equipment Finance Cares. Thank you for making that drive. I believe that was your first event, and
It
kind of might have been
was.
the first time you heard about Equipment Finance Cares. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on uh, some of the discussion topics there overall, and when you saw some of these charities, like, just what was your overall feeling, Tanya?
I think again, it just speaks to how cool the industry is and how collaborative. Um, it was a great, I'm probably more embarrassed that I didn't know more about it going into it, but it's a phenomenal way to shed light on things that, you know, are really important in the world. And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in what are your struggles of the day, but there are so many bigger issues out there that if we can work together as an industry to help make someone's situation better, we definitely should be. We have the means to do it. We have the passionate people. We have the intelligence
Yeah.
in the industry. Let's do what we can to do our part. So I I loved the event. I can't wait to participate in my next one. Um, yeah, it was phenomenal.
No, and thank you. And don't be embarrassed. That just means I'm doing a bad job not creating more awareness around it. So it's amazing how people are like, yeah, I still don't know what this is, and I'm like, "Ah," but now there's a part of me where I want to say we got our 501(c)(3) designation in June. So my foot's been on the gas pedal, but I wanted to wait until we had that before
Yeah.
officially, just because it's just kind of what my mindset was at when we launched it about 18 months ago. But it's fun, and for me, it's getting those people together, because, like you said, we have the means to do it, but if we don't have the awareness around some of these passion projects, people want to help. I mean,
Yeah.
we raise money for people during the events, but what's amazing, and I want to say, to date, we've raised probably about 40 grand for charities at these events. But the awareness that we've gained at those events has led to over an additional $100,000
That's
to
amazing.
these foundations and charities. And you don't really even hear about those. We just get like these people that are just kind of sitting back, and it's like they don't want to come forward, which is fine, but they're just making these donations once they hear what people are up to.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's some really good organizations. I think my favorite part was when you kind of had that, hey, everybody speak up for, 5 minutes about your organization. And just some of the needs you didn't even know were needs, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like we live sort of a sheltered world or a sheltered life. And so just having perspective into, what other people, the challenges they're facing, just it's amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing it
Oh,
to our attention.
no, and I'll make sure I send over all the information for our events that we have coming up next year, and you never know, maybe we'll have one of these in Iowa somewhere.
I love it.
So, but I ask everyone, Tanya, who comes on here, a little fun fact about themselves. Now this is recorded, so it will be online. So anything you'd like to share with the audience here?
Um, Going back to my lack of patience, I tend to love hobbies and buy all the stuff for the hobby. And then when it gets time to do the hobby, when you're not like excelling at it perfectly, then it's easy to get distracted. I'm like, oh, I need a new hobby. And so I have to say something that's a little different for me is I have picked up two hobbies. And despite me sucking at both of them to kind of extreme levels, I am still pushing forward. My first one is I started taking guitar lessons. The whole practicing thing, I just don't like that. That's not very fun. So I think I should be able to play like Ed Sheeran on day one, and I can't. I'm getting better, but it's slow. And then
Guitar
my second,
Guitar Hero. I mean, Guitar
I was
Hero.
awesome at Guitar Hero. That
Let's
should
go.
translate. I
Let's
know it
go.
doesn't.
Let's go. Let's go. What do you mean
No.
I have to do all these things with my fingers? No, I hit the button.
Oh, well, and what was funny is I was telling my guitar teacher, I'm like, my hand doesn't move that way. He's like, everybody's hand moves that way. Like you just have to train it. I'm like, ugh, and that's where that whole practice comes in. So that's my first one. My second one, I just started taking Spanish. I've always wanted to learn Spanish. And so I was doing like an app on my phone, and I went to an industry event about a year ago, actually. And I was so proud of myself. And I was talking to somebody, and they're like, that's not good. He's like, you wouldn't use those words. That's not like the local slang. Like he's like, that's not good. And I'm like, so I was very disheartened for about a year. And then I just decided I'm going to take like an in-person class with people who are native speakers. So again, I'm not good at all, but if anyone out there would like to practice with me, I would love that.
I will practice with you.
Oh,
I had what,
I love it.
8 years of Spanish. My ex-wife was that was her first language.
See, I need people
I
like you that
I
are willing to talk to me.
I am not fluent. I can speak Spanglish very well. So you just add an O to everything and just be ignorant, and then you just get away with it.
Well, and
But
it's funny because my teacher was like, "Why are you learning this?" And I'm like, "I just because I want to." And he's like, "Okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever." So,
hey, you know what? At least I would say that's an easier language to pick up than like Mandarin or something like
oh,
that. Then you just be like,
which is probably more troubling that it's so
ah.
difficult for me. Like, it's not supposed to be that hard, and I'm like, I
I
just,
wasn't I wasn't gonna go there, but yeah,
my trip to myself or my reward to myself is I'm going to take a nice long trip somewhere that's Spanish speaking once I feel like capable. So
well,
hopefully, hopefully
that's
I'm
the only
not
way to
retired by the time that trip happens.
that's the only way that that's actually gonna happen is if you force yourself by cultural immersion.
Yes. Well, in these classes, it's sort of funny. They pretty much speak 100% Spanish, and half the time I'm like, "What are they
No,
saying?" Like, I'm like, I don't
no,
understand. So,
no. And why do you sound angry? Like what's going on here? I don't get it. I don't get it. But in closing here, Tanya, at the end of the day, why do business with Great America Financial Services?
I just think Great America is made up of phenomenal individuals that are focused on our success of our customers. And, you know, we can't do everything for our customers, but we will go to the ends of the earth as far as we can to help them out. Um, I just think it's a phenomenal company. I think people don't appreciate how good it is unless you've worked somewhere else. Um, and having come from the telecom industry prior to this, it's a great company made with great people who are just trying to help other people succeed.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it any better myself, just from my experience in dealing with your organization. Thank you for your time today. And what's the next trade show I'm going to see you at? No.
I've got some ones in the different business units starting in January, but I probably won't see you until the spring, I'm guessing.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to figure out a way to get out that way.
Yeah.
So
Actually, the one in January is in Arizona. Maybe we could hit up for dinner or something.
that works.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Tanya. It's always a pleasure. And happy holidays.
Well, thanks for
And
having me, Jesse.
we'll be talking soon. Thank you.